Teddy Roosevelt called for America to promote peace around the globe, saying, quote, "Not in the spirit of the weakling and craven, but with the assured self-confidence of the just man armed."
Mike is a true American patriot. He has devoted many years of his life to defending America, and Mike has also earned my deepest respect and admiration.
As believers, we draw on the wisdom of God to help us get it right, to be a force for good in the lives of human beings.
We want to make sure that the least amongst us, the unborn, aren't aborted.
Were you aware that our folks were meeting with Al-Qaeda on the ground in Benghazi, Libya?
I know nothing about this, Congressman.
I think that's deeply disturbing.
The President and I are confident in your ability to lead the Central Intelligence Agency with great distinction.
Mr. President, you have entrusted me with an awesome responsibility to serve the American people. My team and I will be unrelenting.
One of the good things that we do in this administration is our dedication to the protection of religious freedom all around the world.
Today, because of the president's determination and leadership, the ISIS caliphate is wiped out. It's gone. Its evil leader, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, is dead. And our brave soldiers, they're on their way home.
We had a terrible deal that the previous administration had entered into. We stopped giving them money. We put pressure on the Iranian regime, and we're forcing them to make tough decisions.
After decades of division and conflict, we mark the dawn of a new Middle East.
These are glorious things that I'm confident will truly usher in a new era in the Middle East. I pray that it is so.
Israel is an enormously resilient people.
The United States Department of State stands strongly to recognize the history of this special place.
Well, we've given out the Winston Churchill Award, and now we're getting ready to give out the Ronald Reagan Defender of Freedom Award. So Churchill and Reagan, not bad, for one night. And what an honor it is to have Mike Pompeo grace our stage tonight. You saw the details of his bio, but I think the thing that has impressed me most, and I've been privileged to work with an awful lot of leaders in Washington over these decades, is I have rarely, if ever, met a leader who was this intelligent, indeed brilliant, creative, capable, with such enormous leadership talent, who was also so humble and wasn't self-seeking, because he was so totally yielded to the purposes of God in his generation. I had the privilege to work with him on the Hill when he was in Congress, at the CIA, and again at the State Department. And I think he's exactly the kind of model of leadership we need in America today at every level of government. And when you look at what he did to stand up to China, to Iran, to defend Israel, to put American national security interests first, to defend those who didn't have a voice, to stand for religious freedom to those who had lived in darkness for decades. Mike Pompeo has already assembled one of the most remarkable careers of public service that we've seen in recent decades, and I don't think he's done yet. And that's why I'm so privileged to present the Faith and Freedom Coalition Ronald Reagan Defender of Freedom Award to Mike Pompeo for 2022. Mike, come on up.
Good evening. It is enormously humbling to be mentioned in the same sentence with President Ronald Reagan. He was my commander-in-chief when I was a young lieutenant you saw in that video there. 4 decades ago. Many miles have been traveled. Many miles have been traveled for the United States of America. Ralph, thank you so much for this honor. Mr. Speaker, it's great to be with you this evening. It's great to see Ambassador Gingrich here as well. Ambassador Evans, too. I had incredibly capable ambassadors in these two people. Randy was reminding me tonight that my guidance was, you're in the batter's box, darn it, swing. Get after it. Defend this nation in ways that we had not been doing under the previous administration. It's deeply appropriate that you received this Winston Churchill Award, Mr. Speaker. I remember vividly, I was a brand new congressman in 2010. They had invited former Speaker Gingrich to come speak to our class. It was the big Tea Party class of 2010. And his wisdom was deep, and his last words were, "Don't blow it." And so as we think about building a majority in the months that come between here and November, I want to make sure that none of us blow it, that we all continue to work and do the things that matter to restore American greatness. I am counting on each of you to do that. You know, Mr. Speaker, you got the Winston Churchill Award, and maybe I'll kick off my remarks tonight with this. Winston Churchill had another famous line that no one's given yet tonight. He said something like, "America always does the right thing after it exhausts all the other possibilities." And I will tell you, as you stare at America today, we are close to that point. I had this incredible privilege to serve you as America's Secretary of State. I was the 70th Secretary of State. Donald Trump was the 45th president. It always reminded me when I thought about that there was more turnover in my gig than his. And every morning I'd get up and check my phone, make sure I still had a place to go to work. No, you laugh. 5 secretaries of defense, 4 national security advisors, just me. We were a lovely, unique administration. We were different. We were different. We were different because we know who you are, and we value you, and we care about you, and we worked for you. And every day we got up and fought for you everywhere and always all around the world. Not one time did I ever travel the world. I went to 100+ countries. Not one time did I ever travel the world and apologize for the United States of America. This country needs no apology. It's not that we're perfect. Indeed, in our founding documents, we talk about a more perfect union. But there is nothing that rivals this experiment. There is nothing anywhere in the world that remotely approaches the greatness of the people of the United States of America. On a Saturday night in Nashville, Tennessee, you can see that. You can see it in your eyes. I can hear it when I was walking the halls today and had a chance to meet some of you. We know the specialness, and we know our duty to continue to work on it. I have 2 sitting to my left, a woman who was my spokesman, Morgan Ortega. She spoke on behalf of me at the State Department. Sometimes she'd say, "Probably better to send me out today, Mr. Secretary, than you. You seem a little fired up. You might use your not-so-adult words." We were fearless in all that we did. Mr. Speaker, you said the left won't leave the State Department. No truer words have ever been spoken. I think I've run 7 organizations in my life, if you'll give me credit for having been assistant manager at Baskin-Robbins. I believe I left every organization that I led better off, and I'm not sure I can say that about the deep, deep problems inside the federal bureaucracy today. It's going to take real leaders of character who are prepared to push back on that, and we did that every single day. I had big fights. I wanted to speak to a big Christian group. I gave a big speech at a big church in Dallas, and the lawyers at the State Department said, "Mr. Secretary, you can't do that. You know, we have to separate church and state." And I said, "I appreciate your opinion." I vaguely remember I was confirmed by the United States Senate, although not by that much. And I gave those remarks. In the days that followed, you can imagine the response. The response from the mainstream media was, well, I'll just read you a few of my favorites. Quote, meet Mike Pompeo, the far-right Christian zealot. Okay. Here's another great headline, one of my favorites. Forget Putin. It's the meddling by America's evangelical enforcer that should scare us all. A woman who has too much influence today, a woman named Susan Rice, who sits about 40 feet from President Biden today, that she said that the radical evangelical views of Mike Pompeo are problematic for the United States of America. And then my favorite headline, 14 points. Mike Pompeo, God's diplomat. Now, I will tell you, as you can imagine in the Pompeo household, we thought that was bonus. We thought if you could get that on your epitaph, it simply doesn't get any better than that. But if you read the article, that was not the thought that was in the author's head. Look, I have some ideas for us all that we should share and take forward as we move to the next challenge that confronts our nation, the one that you can feel, that is tangible all around the country today. Things are too expensive, many, many challenges. But the decay inside our nation is what really challenges each of us. That's the work that lays before us. And it starts with the central idea. It starts with the central idea that we can't let them gaslight us. That is, you all know things that are true. Every day, I took a moment. I would have stacks of intelligence as CIA director and big books from the State Department, and you would read them, then there was no good news. But I had this other book on my desk. It was the Bible. It had a whole lot of good news. And I would take a moment. Morgan can attest to this. It was sitting there on my desk. It annoyed lots of visitors. But it also gave people at the State Department great courage. They knew they had a leader of conviction who was faithful and serious and prepared to defend the things that mattered to him and to our country. And this is why I remind you, don't be gaslit. Don't let the naysayers get you down. It's easy to do. I'll admit it happens to me from time to time too. And then, as is appropriate on the eve of Father's Day, it's always my son that draws me back. My son would remind me every day that, Dad, you didn't get here by luck or good fortune. We all got here because of our faith and our hard work. Stop whining and get back out there. I love him. I spoke to him tonight. He said, I'm going to watch that. Don't let me down, Dad. He's a great young man. He's getting married in just a couple of weeks to a lovely young Christian woman from Florida, and we could not be happier. Don't let him gaslight you. Don't let them gaslight. When they tell you there's more than two genders, don't let them gaslight you. When they tell you that it's okay for one of those genders, men, to compete with women, don't let them gaslight you. That is deeply unfair to the young ladies who are out there trying their best to compete in the world. When they tell you that America is a racist nation and that our founding was racist, tell them that this is a lovely nation and our nation is the most fundamentally accepting of people of every different race in the history of the history of the world. And when they tell you that they want to put teachers' union in charge of your children, tell them, hell no. I spent 4 years in the Trump administration. The last job was running the State Department. Ralph, you read a little bit of my bio. You left out my most important prerequisite. I was a 5th grade Sunday school teacher at Eastminster Presbyterian Church, and there is no better job to learn to be America's Secretary of State than teaching 5th grade boys. My wife would have the girls. She'd teach them a Bible verse. I would just do my best to keep the boys from hurting each other. And anyone who's done church politics knows that's good practice too. We led from our faith and our conviction. And this is how we know what it is that we know. Speaker spoke about the fact that the Democrats' real danger is that there are things that they know that are untrue. We know things that are true. And this isn't Republican or Democrat. This is deeply American. We know the things that made our nation so different and so special and so unique. And a nation that leaders from all across the world envy. They can't all admit it. Some of them want to fight us. But I would travel the world, and they all wanted to see me. Every leader, no matter where I traveled. It wasn't Mike that they wanted to see. No, they wanted to see America's Secretary of State, because they knew that we were good and true. And they knew that in our time, in our administration, we were serious in putting our nation and our own people first. We were ridiculed for that a little bit. Oh my gosh, America first, America alone. We built a 90-country alliance that defeated the ISIS caliphate when they were beheading Americans under Barack Obama. When the nation of Israel needed a friend, they had no better friend than the State Department under my leadership and that of President Trump. Whether it was when they said that the nation of Israel was an occupying nation, that's the department, that's the position that the United States had taken under multiple secretaries of state. We said no. The nation of Israel, including Judea and Samaria, are the rightful homeland of the Jewish people, and we will never deny it, and we will always support their ability to defend themselves. Speaker Gingrich was very kind. He talked about how we rolled in the world. We didn't roll by leading, saying that we're going to go put the 82nd Airborne everywhere and always. No, we led with the strengths of America, our ideas and our power, our energy, our economic might. Those were the tools that we used to get good outcomes for people like you each and every day. Look, our adversaries were no different in our time than they have been under President Biden. But what changed was American resolve and American leadership. If you ask the simple question, would Vladimir Putin have done what he did? I answer it this way. Vladimir Putin hasn't changed. I've probably spent 10 hours with him. When I looked in his eyes, I actually didn't see his soul. I saw a man who is evil and ruthless and wants very much to restore Greater Russia. He's never changed. Under President Obama, he took 1/5 of Ukraine, and then for 4 years, he sat quiescent. He did nothing. And then within months, he invaded Europe and caused the devastation for the Ukrainian people and heartache here in the United States of America as well. What changed was American resolve and American leadership on behalf of each and every one of you. We knew, too, that the defense of Israel and to get it right in the Middle East meant building out friendships and relationships. The work that we did in what ultimately became the Abraham Accords will matter to your kids and grandkids. It will create less risk that they ever have to go fight in that terrible place. You know, we too risked the fact that we'd lose deterrence in the way that we lost it with Vladimir Putin, and in the way that I fear we're losing it with Xi Jinping today. We risked it too. The Iranians were, everybody remember the old Southwest Airlines line? They were feeling a little free to move about the cabin. And then this man named Qasem Soleimani, an Iranian general, was trying to kill 500 more Americans, in addition to the 500 that he had already killed. We went down to Mar-a-Lago. It would have been the end of December, just before COVID. And I briefed the president, told him that fortune favors the brave, and we have this real opportunity to stop this plot against America. And your Department of Defense exquisitely conducted a mission, and Qasem Soleimani will never kill another American, ever again. You know, we put faith at the center of what we did. We worked so tirelessly. Callista was an important part of this for me on promoting religious freedom around the world. It mattered to me as a Christian, as a believer, as someone who knows that Jesus Christ is his Savior. But it mattered to me as a Secretary of State, one who swore an oath to defend the Constitution and defend America against enemies, foreign and domestic as well. It mattered to me because nations that are freer and more prosperous and with more religious liberty are less likely to cause problems in the world. And so we made the case for religious freedom for the people in Nigeria. We made the case along with the coalition that Ralph has put together for religious freedom in places throughout the Middle East, including Iraq. I'll never forget the moment. I was with Chairman Kim. It was my second trip to North Korea. My first trip there actually was Easter of 2018. I had never dreamed that I would celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ in Pyongyang, North Korea. a fitting place where Jesus is at work. I was there on my second trip, and we were working to set up what became the first summit for President Trump in Singapore. And about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I needed to get to my airplane because there was a place I didn't want to spend the night. That was it. And I said to Chairman Kim, I said, Mr. Chairman, the President of the United States expects, and I expect that when I get on my airplane, there will be 3 more Americans on that plane than when I landed. You may recall that early in our term, a young man named Otto Warmbier had been returned to the United States of America only to perish a few hours later as a result of the treatment, the misconduct, the mistreatment of him in North Korea. We still had 3 Americans held hostage. They were 3 Christians who were being held because they had dared practice their faith in North Korea. We were determined to bring them home. We were equally determined not to spend a penny of your money to get them back. It was American leadership and resolve. I went back to the airport. I was standing on this beautiful white over blue airplane that you all provided for my travel. By the way, I'm back in the middle seat on Delta, so life is good. And 5 minutes later on the tarmac pulls up a white van. It's very emotional for me to tell the story. The white van pulls up. We did not know the condition of these 3 Americans. And out of the van come these 3 men. They walked out on their own power. And while they walked the first 3 steps, they saw that U.S. signature on the front of that plane, the State Department logo, and they nearly skipped to the stairs of that airplane. When I landed back in Washington, one of the men had written on a 3x5 card. You can watch the video. He climbs down the steps and he hands me a 3x5 card, and on it he had written a verse from Psalm 125. And he whispered to me, no other nation in the world would have risked so much to come back and get its own people. The Lord is at work. Thank you for what you did. Thank you for what America did to protect our ability to practice our faith anywhere and always. Don't be gaslit. Know the truth. Speak the truth. Be fearless. My last thought for you is a thought from my mother. My mother was a good conservative woman from Kansas. My father, a liberal Democrat. He's passed now. I loved him dearly. He loved me too. I'll never forget the first time, Mr. Speaker, you'll appreciate this. As a brand new member, I went down and spoke from the House floor. My father was retired at the time. He was watching C-SPAN. And he called me that night and said, Mike, I saw you on the floor of the House of Representatives. Who could have dreamed you'd be a member of Congress? I was so proud of you. I said, thanks, Dad. I appreciate that. He says, yes, and then you opened your mouth. I am confident that if my father saw today's Democrat Party, he would be voting for America and for freedom and for faith. We fought for the things that matter. We protected the unborn all across America. We made sure that not a single dollar of yours went to any abortion anywhere in the world. And we made the case for basic human dignity and rights for people around the world that we knew didn't come from any government, not ours, not theirs, but in fact from our Creator. And I mention this because this is the challenge of our times, and I believe that America is on our side. I believe that the vast majority of American people know this in their hearts. They know that we're right, and it's what my mother taught me. I was leaving for West Point. We were at Los Angeles International Airport. I grew up in Southern California. We were headed off. I don't think she was as excited about it as my father was. But she said, Mike, I just want to make sure one thing. She says, you may not be the brightest kid back there. You almost certainly are not going to be the best athlete. But you're as tough as any of them. Wear them down. Don't let them wear you down. And so my encouragement to you tonight is this. My encouragement is that you'll see lots of difficult things on the news. Indeed, I saw dark times. I lived in a difficult place. The world is a tough place. It is nasty. It is a tough place. And my wife jokes that sometimes I talk about the world and people walk out of the room and they have to have a stiff drink or a Xanax. But know this, I'm long America. I believe deeply in this nation. I believe that we will restore the greatness of America, not because of any great American leader, not because of any great rule or law, but because of you. But because you all will get out and you will make sure that we wear them down. We will do it too. We will do it the way that Ronald Reagan did. We will do it with joy in our hearts. We will do it with a smile on our face. And we will do it with a relentlessness that is worthy of our nation's founding. Bless you for being here tonight. Thank you for all that you have done and all that you're going to do. May God bless this organization and God bless this great nation. Thank you all so much. God bless you all.